Welcome to the Western Montana Fish and Game Association and to the Deer Creek Shooting Center. I'm Randy Stemple, president of the WMFGA. The Deer Creek Shooting Center is one of the best and most well-developed shooting ranges in the region, and it depends on its members to stay safe and help keep one another safe at the range. So this training will cover our range safety rules, and when it's over, you'll take a quiz, and you'll pass that quiz with flying colors if you pay attention to the training. All right, let's get started.
We have a set of range rules that we enforce, and members know that their membership depends on their safe use of the range, based on the range rules. Also, as a member, you're authorized to enforce the range rules, including by intervening on unsafe activities. If you'd like to report a rule violation, see the range gate where you drive in. There'll be a sign listing people you can contact.
All right, let's take a look at the rules, and first let's go over the primary rules of gun safety, which you should always follow whether you're here at the range or at home, out hunting, or anywhere else. All guns are always loaded. This is a mindset that you adopt that means whenever you handle a firearm, you treat it as if it were loaded, no matter what. That way, you never have to say, I thought it was unloaded. Next, never point a gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. That means never let the muzzle point at or even sweep across anything that you aren't willing to put bullet holes in, most particularly people, including parts of yourself. Then, when handling a firearm, remember to keep your finger outside the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. This means your trigger finger is alongside the stock or the frame of the gun until it's pointed at the target. Finally, know your target and beyond. Now, I know we come to the range to know our target and beyond, but we still need to be conscious of it, and you'll see that it's reflected in several of the range rules.
All right, let's look at the rules for the Deer Creek Shooting Center. Number one is that no one under the influence of alcohol or drugs may use the range. This is a simple rule, and we have absolutely zero tolerance for violations of this rule. Never drink before or while using the range, and even be aware of the prescription medications that could impair your motor skills or judgment. If you're aware of someone who's under the influence at the range, call someone listed on the range gate immediately.
The Deer Creek Shooting Center is operated as what's called a hold range. This means that firearms can only be handled on the firing line. Guns can only be moved to and from the firing line in a case or a holster, with the exception of long guns such as rifles or shotguns. If they're not in a case, they can still be carried to and from the firing line as long as the actions are open and the muzzle is pointed straight up. A cold range also means that if you're not shooting a gun and it's outside a case or a holster, such as sitting on a shooting bench, it needs to be unloaded with the action open.
The firing line is usually the front of the shooting benches, or if they're shooters shooting from a downrange position, then it's wherever that most forward person is. No one may point guns behind that line, and no one behind it may handle any guns. So if anyone is downrange of you, whether they're shooting or just putting up targets, you may not handle any firearms. That includes even just picking up an unloaded gun with the action open to put it in a case. Basically, if someone's forward of you on the bay, don't touch any guns outside of the case or holster. If you need to leave the line and your firearm is sitting on the bench, but there are shooters downrange, it'll just have to wait for those shooters to come back to the firing line.
Next, don't climb on the berms or the backstop. You could easily put yourself downrange of someone else's shooting position, so make sure to stay off the berms. Also, when you're shooting, make sure to keep the level of fire below the top of the berms and the backstop. The best way to do that is to just keep your muzzle below the berms all the time. You can, of course, dry fire at the range, but only dry fire from places where you could actually shoot. That means don't dry fire where there's no firing line, like in the parking lot.
Now let's look at the rules about being a range member. First, your membership card needs to be in your possession whenever you use the range. Remember that you're welcome to ask anyone at the range to see their membership card at any time if you think they might not be a member. One obvious way to tell if someone's not a member is that they aren't following the rules in this training.
Don't ever share your gate key card or the gate combination with anyone else. It's easy to become a member. Even if it's your mother or your brother or your favorite Grizz player who wants to use the range, they should either come as your guest with you there or maybe get them a membership for their birthday. But do not share the key card or combination. Members over 21 do have guest privileges at the range, and you're invited to bring guests. You can bring up to 2 guests at a time, and you can bring each person up to twice a year. After that, they can probably get their own membership.
When you bring guests, you are completely 100% responsible for their safety and making sure they comply with all of the gun safety rules and range rules. That means they need to be under your direct supervision, with you there on at least the same bay, shooting next to them. If there's any chance they might not be able to follow the rules, you might need to stop shooting to directly watch and coach them.
Now, your guests don't need to view this orientation training to come to the range with you, but don't forget that this video is always available to you if you'd like to send it or show it to a guest to bring them up to speed. Youth under 16 years old at the range also need to be supervised, and they need to stay behind the firing line when not shooting. Also, watch out specifically for kids climbing on the safety berms, like you heard about earlier.
Now let's talk about what to shoot and what not to shoot. First, we don't allow any targets depicting real identifiable people at the range. We also don't allow any explosive targets or incendiary ammo like tracers, because it's a huge fire hazard, even outside of fire season. Breakable targets aren't allowed at the range because it's impossible to clean them up. The only exception is clay pigeons. Otherwise, breakable targets aren't allowed.
Don't move those target backers around. They're located where they are for a reason. That means don't move the target backers any closer than they're already set. You can go to a shorter bay to shoot at those shorter targets. And also don't move the target backers left and right. But also don't shoot across the range just because the target backer isn't in front of you. The only thing to do there is to move yourself relative to the target backer so that you're shooting from more or less in front of your intended target backer. We also don't want anyone shooting at the target backers with shot from a shotgun. It just totally destroys the wooden backer supports, so just use pistols and rifles on those backers. And finally, on the archery area, don't shoot at the provided target backer bales with your broadheads. If you want to practice with your broadheads, that's fine, just bring your own target backstop.
So now let's look at the rules about how to use the different ranges. First, if there are 4 or more shooters on a bay at the same time, someone needs to step up and volunteer to serve as the range officer. The range officer will coordinate fire and cease fire so that people can safely go downrange to handle targets without anyone touching any firearms while people are downrange. So, if you come to a bay to shoot and there are 3 shooters there, somebody needs to become the range officer.
Full autos are welcome at the range. However, on the 300-yard ranges, only bipod or tripod-mounted full autos can be used. Next, some bays have bay-specific rules posted on that bay, such as the youth range. Make sure to look for those rules posted at the bay.
Finally, there are safety areas available at the range for you to use for minor field gunsmithing or cleaning your guns. It's very important that you do not handle ammunition in those safety areas. Just bring the gun and the tools you need, but do not handle ammunition.
When you're shooting at the range, don't ever shoot at any wildlife. Whether it's a game animal you have a tag for during hunting season, or it's just a squirrel in the summer, never shoot at wildlife at the range. The range itself is open during daylight hours, so if it's light outside, the range is open. If it's dark, the range is closed.
When you drive through the gate, make sure it's closed and locked every time you go through, in or out. Even if the main electric gate is shut down for maintenance, make sure the padlock gate is closed and locked. Having said that, sometimes we host special events at the range, during which some of the rules may change. So for example, during a shooting match, you might find the gate locked open, and some range bays may be closed for the match activities.
Finally, please be courteous to other members by policing your shooting area for any trash. Of course, this includes things like ammo boxes, water bottles, but it also includes things like shotgun hulls and your targets, which can eventually blow away in the wind. The exception is brass. Brass can be left on the ground or on the bench, but except for the brass and the bullets in the backstop, pack out what you packed in, or make sure it winds up in a trash can on the bay or in the dumpster.
All right, that's it. Thanks very much for your time and attention in this training. Now, go ace that quiz, remember the safety rules when you use the range, shoot straight, and we'll see you out here.